Hello, I'm John Quinones. Welcome to a special 2-hour edition of 2020 on ID and a groundbreaking story Diane Sawyer first reported in 2011.
Jaycee Lee Dugard, the stunning story of strength, survival, and the light you can bring even to the darkest days. Kidnapped at age 11, imprisoned for 18 years by a repeat sex offender and his wife.
There is life after something tragic.
The little girl who defeated his locked doors with her dreams. The horror with her hope.
How did you stay sane?
Twice giving birth to his child in a squalid backyard. 2 babies to love.
I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. I had somebody that was mine. I wasn't alone.
And someone else is also at the center of this story. A mother who never gave up.
I remember saying, come quick.
And I remember telling you, I'm coming, baby, I'm coming.
And the questions, the outrage as over and over again, doctors and law enforcement missed the chance to save her. 60 times parole officers came to the house and never looked hard enough to find a stolen child just 30 feet away. Chris Cuomo investigates.
They hear a report their kids living in a backyard, and they're not curious at all. That's what I don't get. It seems impossible to common sense.
And what about the 2 campus police women who simply listened to their instinct and acted, freeing a girl who could finally come home? Indestructible hope. Jaycee Dugard, A Stolen Life.
Good evening, and we're so glad that you're with us tonight for Jaycee Dugard and her powerful story of hope. As you're about to see, she's a young woman who can look at the truth without blinking, and yet she is a radiant spirit even after 18 years of imprisonment by predators whose actions defy understanding. Some of her story is harrowing. Some of it will leave you outraged at all the times law enforcement could have saved her and did not, while her mother was also suffering and refusing to give up the search. But in the end, Jaycee Dugard will find a way to save herself until the day she can call and say, I'm alive, I'm coming home.
She was a little girl with a name right out of a storybook, Jaycee Lee Dugard, age 11 years old.
Hello?
A girl who loved her mom, her little sister, a cat named Monkey, and school and books and stories, and by holding on to the memory of everything she loved, survived and would triumph after a battle in a monstrous backyard, where a convicted sex offender let out of prison early Philip Garrido and his wife Nancy, kidnapped her, handcuffed her, imprisoned her, forced her to give birth outside. And over again, dozens of times, law enforcement would miss the easy opportunities to find and save her. For 18 years, she'd be forbidden to say her own name. So this is how her book, A Stolen Life, begins.
Let's get one thing straight. My name is Jaycee Lee Dugard. I was kidnapped by a stranger at age 11. And I want Philip Garrido to know that I no longer have to keep his secret. I was happy.
She is 31 years old. She looks impossibly young.
I know, I was worried about should I wear heels?
She's also someone who laughs a lot and delights in ordinary things on ordinary days, like learning to drive at the age of 29.
I go to park and I get out, I'm like, oh God, I did really good. And my mom's like, but look where you parked. And I was like, taking 2 spaces.
You would never know what she survived.
Oh, my pine cone?
Unless you notice how her face changes when she speaks of the past. And the charm around her neck, it's a pine cone.
Back then, it was the last thing I touched. You know, the last grip on me. Now it's a symbol of hope and new beginnings, and that there is life after something tragic.
And she has a message that is both simple and profound about hope, survival, and what it meant to have a mother who would never let go. It is June 10th, 1991. Jaycee Dugard wakes up in this house in Lake Tahoe, California, where her family's moved because it's a safe place to live. She's in the 5th grade and remembers worrying about the field trip coming up because she's so shy. Remembers dressing in her favorite all-pink outfit. And she remembers the mom she absolutely adores had to leave early for her work as a typesetter at a print house and didn't do something she said she would do.
She said that she'd give me a kiss goodbye. She didn't. I wasn't mad. I just, thought I'd catch her when I got home, tell her, you got to give me a kiss next time,
She also remembers there was something she had wanted to ask her mom.
I wanted to ask my mom if I could shave for the field trip.
Shave your legs?
Yeah.
Big question.
Didn't want to be
for her.
embarrassed. Yeah. Didn't want to be embarrassed. So that was the big question on my mind.
She walks up the hill from the house to catch the school bus, the way her mother taught her, looking out for traffic.
Walked up the side of the hill. That was the safe way to go against traffic. And halfway up, my world changed in an instant. I thought, oh, somebody's looking for directions.
A gray car pulls up. A man rolls down the window.
And his hand shoots out, and I just feel numb. My whole body is tingly. I don't know what it's from. I fall back in the bushes.
She had been paralyzed by a stun gun.
I lost control of my bladder. I wasn't even embarrassed. No time to be embarrassed.
On the ground, she feels something with sharp edges. That pine cone. The last thing she touches before she comes to, face down on the floor in the back seat of a car.
I remember my throat felt very dry and scratchy and like I had been screaming, but I don't remember screaming.
The man behind the wheel is that convicted sex offender, and holding her down on the floor in the back is his wife, Nancy. The district attorney believes Nancy scouted the little girl for her husband as a prize.
Did they say anything? Did you hear anything?
No, not at first. After we were driving for a while, I heard the driver say, I can't believe we got away with it. And he started laughing. I think I blacked out again or something. It was like the most horrible moment of your life times 10.
120 miles later, this is where the car stops, a house on a neighborhood street. Garrido tells her to be quiet.
I said, I think it's probably one of the only things I said was, my family doesn't have a lot of money, they can't pay the ransom. That's what I kidnap as ransom, right? Yeah. No. Not always.
He is 40 years old, 6 feet 4 inches tall, 196 pounds. She is 11, 4 feet 6, 80 pounds. He takes away the pink clothes she dressed in that morning. The only thing she has left is a little ring shaped like a butterfly. She will hide from him for 18 years. A blanket is over her head. She has no clothes. He walks her through a small area of grass toward a fence where an opening is concealed by a tarp. And hidden behind the fence, a deranged collection of sheds and storage units. One of them tiny, completely soundproof. He leads her inside and takes out handcuffs.
He said that they were the fuzzy kind, so they wouldn't hurt as bad. Whatever.
Behind your back?
Yeah. There was a pallet on the floor. And then he said he'd be back later. And he shut the studio or the soundproof door and then the other door with the lock.
You heard
Remember
that
lock? Yeah. I can still hear it consciously or when I'm awake. Just some sounds and smells and just don't leave you.
He warns her there are dogs outside, Dobermans. They'll attack if she tries to escape. She notices there's one window covered with bars and a towel. He leaves.
At one point, you write that you get up and you take your teeth and you pull a towel
I
off.
wanted to see where I was. Yeah. I couldn't use my hands. And there was just weeds and some kind of fence.
Naked, arms in handcuffs behind her back, she drifts in and out of sleep.
Crying?
I didn't really want to because then you can't wipe them away. Then you get all sticky and, that sounds awful. But, I tried not to cry because I couldn't wipe them away or, and then they get itchy. And
She made a note to remember the sound of the train so it would help her mother find her.
And then later it was just listening to lawnmowers and airplanes, anything for human contact, I guess. I was so lonely. I felt so alone.
And 120 miles away in those first hours, a mother who loves her daughter and will never give up is already on television making a plea.
It's pretty, young, innocent child.
Friends have been searching all day and evening.
Police started searching the neighborhood.
Police set up a roadblock and go door to door. Her classmates are out in the streets holding up signs.
And it's time that she comes home.
But all alone, on that first night, Jaycee Dugard decides to cling to something that will sustain her. The moonlight streaming through the towel reminds her of her mother and gets her through the night.
We would always sit on the porch and we would debate whether the full moon or the crescent moon was the better moon. I always liked the full moon and she liked the crescent. And just always made me think of her.
Do you remember the song you and your mom sang? Looking at the moon?
Hi, you are the moon. How does it go? I forget.
I love the moon and the moon
Sees me. I see the moon and the moon sees me. God bless the moon and God bless me.
When we come back,
Time
a
that she
mother's
comes
search.
home.
You were always there. You never left me.
Parole officers, doctors who miss what is in front of them.
This is the
And the
studio.
story Jaycee Dugard will tell for all the victims of sex abuse. A story she says is his shame, not hers.
Stare it down until it can't scare you anymore.
And as we begin now, a parental warning as Jaycee Dugard talks about what happened to her next. Some numbers we should all know. There are 20,000 abductions of children every year by strangers. 99% of those will be returned fairly soon. But 100 disappear long term, and only half of those return alive. Fewer still have the strength to bear witness to the reality of what pedophiles do. Jaycee Dugard says she wrote these chapters as a call to action for judges, psychiatrists, parole officers, and for all the victims who cannot speak for themselves.
Okay. This is Philip Garrido. In a video obtained by ABC News, he is singing one of the songs he wrote. He told everyone he was a musical genius on the verge of a big break. He also claims to be a religious visionary, calling himself the Witness, rambling on about the Bible, saying he was chosen to hear the voices of demon angels in the walls, in the ground, and that he'll save the world. His first arrest was 1972 for raping a 14-year-old girl who was too afraid to testify, so the case collapsed. 5 years later, he took a woman into a rented storage container and raped her for 8 hours. But she managed to escape, and because of her, he would be sentenced to 50 years in prison. But for some reason, the parole board decided to release him after just a quarter of that sentence was served. Later, he even received a letter of commendation from the parole board heralding him for his personal accomplishments. First week, in June 1991, the 11-year-old girl, handcuffed, arms behind her back, is aching, skin rubbed raw. Philip Garrido is her only human contact, and for those first few days, he just comes, sits, tells her funny stories, brings her soda and fast food. A classic approach for a pedophile.
I depended on him for bathroom, food, company.
You had no water, toothbrush,
No,
toilet.
no
What
toilet.
was the toilet?
Toilet was a bucket. Well, I had handcuffs on, so it was very difficult. So
She writes in the book she has no idea what he's planning to do. She's never heard about sexual abuse.
Had you ever heard the phrase?
nope, not into boys, other than, maybe the New Kids on the Block or something like that.
Sex was Ken and Barbie.
Yeah, laying together. That's what it was.
That's what you thought it was?
That's what I thought it was. Yeah.
The book she wrote, A Stolen Life, is unflinching about what would happen to her next. I asked her why she decided to write in such unsparing detail. She said she wanted to do it for victims of sex abuse, who often keep secrets, along with fear and shame.
Why not look at it? You know, stare it down until it can't scare you anymore.
She worked on all this with her therapist, Rebecca Bailey, who specializes in family reunification after trauma.
It is not her shame. Those things happen to her. They're not who she is.
This is the studio. That's where I was first taken. I didn't want there to be any more secrets.
But it is one thing to write it down and another to say the words out loud. We assured her that what she says is up to her. She tells us right after she's kidnapped, he forces her into a shower with him, and she's never seen an unclothed man. Again, she's just 11. She's been imprisoned in that shed in handcuffs for a week, when instead of a soda, he brings her a milkshake.
Comes in with the milkshake, and I was getting used to him coming in. But he said things were going to be different
this time.
She is still in handcuffs the first time he rapes her.
I remember crying, but they were silent. Just tears running down my face.
She tells us she remembers seeing a trail of ants making their way toward the untouched milkshake. After that, the rape will be daily.
It was pretty much before I ate meals. So, felt like every day. I mean, like I said, time is hard to judge, but there's a switch that I had to shut off.
Just go someplace else.
Just went someplace else.
And remember, at the same time he is imprisoning her, raping her, parole officers are coming to the house regularly to monitor him, but not looking in the backyard. And there was even a time when a neighbor called 911 and said she had seen girls in his yard. Nothing was done. 2 hours away, her mother is now asking neighbors to keep their porch lights on in case Jaycee comes home.
Lifts my spirit real high. I'm overwhelmed. This is more than I can ask for. Give me a light. This is going to bring her home. I know it.
At one point, he brings in a TV, though she can't see the news.
In the beginning, you could only see QVC?
Yeah, I would fall asleep to the sound of jewelry being sold. But at least it was talking.
And she tells us she thinks she had been imprisoned in that shed almost a month and a half when something new, unknown, signals change. Garrido moves her out of the soundproof storage unit into a room next door.
Over here, the blue building.
And handcuffs her to a pull-out bed. He tells her those demon angels, those voices he hears, have given him permission to do other things he wants to do. He says if he does them, it will help him with his sexual problems.
That's what I was here for. Yeah, that's why he got me.
And if you do it, you would keep other little girls safe?
Yeah, he was always, protect other people so he didn't have to go out and do this to anybody else.
Did you believe that you were protecting other little girls?
I think I did. I think on some level I did, yeah.
He put that stun gun out on a table where she could see it. He got out equipment for drugs. And so began something he would call runs, countless of them during her captivity, drug-fueled binges that would go on for days at a time. In her book, she writes in graphic detail what he forced her to do. This is what she is comfortable telling us.
Oh, they were very long. Usually started out with, he would dress me up for hours because he was taking methamphetamines and speed. He called it speed. He would get focused on one thing for long periods of time. And then it usually went to him with his little books of cutouts that he would cut out for hours and paste on little girls from magazines and porno magazines. I mean, it didn't make sense to me at all, but that's what he did.
Again, the runs would continue 2 or 3 days each time. And often, he would videotape her. Sometimes he would stop to make sure she was listening to the voices he says he could hear in the walls.
He would apologize and...
That's the confusing part.
Beg your forgiveness.
Tell me what an awful man he was. You know, and here I am trying to, feeling, you know, hurting, because it hurt, you know, wanting it to stop. And I have to comfort him.
After the tears to keep her compliant, more threats. And year after year, he would keep raising the bar on terror, threatening something yet to come, even worse. Once saying he would sell her to people who were going to lock her in a cage.
He would come up with
the unknown that would always be more terrifying than what I knew. After, you know, I got used to the, I don't know if you ever get used to that, but you can get used to things. Once I got used to that, it would be the unknown thing that was more terrifying than actually keeping with the runs and doing something that was, at least I knew what was going to happen. It's when he would invent new things and
all night long you would think that's what he was going to do to you.
I begged him, you know, I'll do it better, you know, I'll be good, because it was the unknown that was terrifying.
Did you think it was going to be the rest of your life?
It sounded like it.
And as the first month passes, remember, there's no way she can run. The handcuffs, the bolted doors, the dogs outside.
There was not a day that I didn't cry. I felt like there would never, ever be a day that I wouldn't cry again. And then, after a while, I told myself I can't cry anymore.
What's the most haunting memory?
That lock. Hearing the lock. I know I said that earlier, but for some reason that. And the bed. It was a squeaky bed. Squeaky pull-out bed. I guess the noise, the sounds. It's weird what sticks in your head, but sounds.
How did you stay sane?
I don't know. I was still alive. There was still hope. Still hope.
I'm trying to imagine how you are coping. I'm trying to imagine.
I don't know. I can't imagine being beaten to death, you know. And you can't imagine being kidnapped and raped, you know. So it's just, you just do what you have to do to survive.
And again, she says she is telling her story so that the thousands of other survivors of sexual abuse know that survival is your strength, not your shame.
It's that T.S. Eliot quote you have in your book.
Yeah, I had
about
hope. Thinking I have to hope in something. Hope was in the wrong place. But sometimes you just have to hold on to any kind of hope to survive.
And there is one more measure of Jaycee Dugard's willingness to stare down the truth. Prosecutors ask her to review those videotapes he made. She says it was painful, but she did it to be sure he had not kidnapped any other little girls, and every tape was of her. If you think you've witnessed child abuse or suspect a missing child, you can call this number, 1-800-THE-LOST, 1-800-843-5678 at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
When we come back, a mother moving heaven and earth to find her child, and 7 months into Jaycee's imprisonment.
Some ways she's just as evil as Philip.
A new jailer, new fears.
Very twisted minds.
As we said, for 7 months, the only human being Jaycee Dugard would see was the man who was coming to rape her. Back home, that field trip she had worried about was long over. Back home, her 5th grade classmates have now graduated elementary school. Her mom is raising her little sister, feeding Monkey the cat, and asking everyone to keep searching and believing Jaycee will return.
She is coming home. That gives me a lot of hope, a lot of optimism. Somebody's, feeding me dreams for a reason.
And by the way, her biological father had left the family, was never in Jaycee's life. There was a stepfather, but Jaycee was not close to him. 2 hours away, Jaycee is now being moved back and forth from the soundproof room to the larger room where she's handcuffed to the bed. Her only company, a spider, she names Bianca. Then one day, 7 months in, Garrido says there is someone he wants her to meet, and he wants them to be friends.
She enters the picture.
Yes.
Nancy.
Nancy Garrido is his wife. They had met in a visiting room at Leavenworth Prison. He a prisoner there, she visiting her uncle. She a Jehovah's Witness, he talked to her about the Bible. She became his partner in the hunt for little girls. She was the other person in the car that day, the one who pinned Jaycee Dugard to the floor after the two of them had stun-gunned and grabbed her. Now, when she first walks in, she brings a purple bear. In days to come, a Barbie doll, chocolate milk.
I was so lonely. I craved any kind of attention. I wanted her to like me.
Because
I felt like if she doesn't like me, then I'm going to get in trouble.
Jaycee remembers using the cartons from the chocolate milk to try to make furniture for her Barbie.
Nancy starts bringing me meals. There's a TV over there, so I could watch TV as long as it was low.
She told you she was sorry what they'd done to you?
Mm-hmm. She told me that she cried too. In some ways, she's just as manipulative because she would cry and say, I can't believe that he did this. I wish he would have got a headache that morning that he took you.
And she knew everything.
Yeah, she knew everything. Everything. What makes somebody do that in the first place? Take somebody else's child just to satisfy your husband. I don't know, she's just as evil as Philip. Very twisted minds.
Twisted.
Okay. Does it say record still?
Yes.
Good.
And remember the video of Philip Garrido playing his guitar? In fact, he is at a children's playground. His wife Nancy is holding the camera and will furtively move it off him away to gather pictures of little girls.
You got me real good?
Yes. I can see you really good.
And don't forget, he is a convicted sex offender supposed to be monitored by law enforcement, at times even tracked by an ankle bracelet. As we said later, we will go to law enforcement and seek answers. When they are arrested, Nancy Garrido will also be charged with kidnapping and rape by force. We remember a moment from the courtroom. Philip Garrido, Nancy Garrido, in a jury box separated by their lawyers. And suddenly he looks at her and mouths the words, I love you. And like her husband, Nancy Garrido, will use manipulation on their 11-year-old prisoner, alternating motherly concern with coldness and cruelty.
Jealous.
Very jealous of me for some reason. Like I wanted her husband to rape me. Very jealous. And sick.
She worked by day as an aide in a nursing home. But when Philip Garrido vanished for a month, she replaced him as jailer.
A whole month? He's gone?
Yeah, she said that he was on an island with a friend, but he was actually sent back to prison.
Only for failing a drug test.
So it's the two of you?
Yeah. She would lock us in every night. She wanted to watch this scary movie called The Unborn. It was awful. It was very scary. And then she would leave in the morning and lock the door.
And the two of them also worked together to use Jaycee's love of animals to manipulate the little girl, giving her kittens that would then mysteriously vanish.
Well, it was Tigger, and then it was Snowy, who, I don't know what happened to her.
Another kitten was named Eclipse, a girl kitten. Jaycee loved so much she asked for paper and a pen to make a little diary. She writes how grateful she was for the little kitten and how much the Garridos told her they paid for her, adding, last night I started to cry and she heard me. She came to me and sat next to me, and after that I felt a little better. She means more to me than my own life. I see her love for me, and every entry is studied with a little heart on a string, like a balloon. The little kitten Eclipse would also disappear during one of Garrido's drug-filled runs. Garrido happened to notice that his captive had signed her name, Jaycee, on that journal.
I actually wrote my name,
Mm-hmm.
and I tore it out when he saw it.
Because he said you had to.
Yes, and that was the last time.
The last time for 18 years she'd be allowed to write or speak her name. Losing her name and fighting to hold on to the memory of the face that is keeping her alive, her mom.
I wanted to see her more than anything.
And worried you'd forget.
Worried I'd forget what she looked like or what she sounded like. Would she forget me?
Would she want you after this?
Yep. Being a mom now, I know that she never forgot about me because I can never forget about my kids. But, when you're a kid and you think you're easily forgettable.
And her mother, Terry, is also fighting to hold on as 1 year passes, and then a second. She's alone except for her own family and friends, some of whom quit their jobs to help her. On TV, she shows Jaycee's room untouched since her disappearance. It's where Terry says she goes to pray every night.
Even though she's not here, she's still in my heart.
And when 34 months have passed, 1,029 days since Jaycee Dugard was kidnapped, sometimes the handcuffs would come off.
Do you remember the day you weren't handcuffed anymore?
I don't remember the exact day. Just all of it. I don't know if it was all of a sudden. It was over time.
But she would still always be locked in a bolted room. One night, the Garridos are with her. They are watching the 10 Commandments on TV. For the first time, they bring her cooked food, corned beef and cabbage. It's Easter, 1994.
And then they tell you they think you're pregnant.
Yeah.
4.5 months pregnant, 13 years old. As we said, by now, Jaycee Dugard has been in captivity for 1,029 days. There are new posters. A sketch artist tries to imagine the little girl now entering her teens, but those posters will also weather and fall away. By now, her mother is holding rummage sales to raise money for private investigators. She is sending more than 1 million flyers across the United States while working and raising Jaycee's little sister Shayna. And 2 hours away in the backyard, Jaycee Dugard has been told she is pregnant.
What did you thought was happening to you?
Thought I was gaining weight.
She will have no medical care. She's bewildered by what her body is doing, and the doors to the outside are bolted. No sun, no sky. She learns the link between sex and pregnancy from TV.
Did you have any idea what it meant to give birth?
No, I had never seen it happen. There was this show that he would talk about a lot, Growing Up Baby or something like that. So I'd watch that, and he was watching birthing videos and just learned.
And he said that he would read up on it and he would do it?
Yeah.
She makes up little stories she tells to the baby growing in her stomach.
August 18th, 1994, you're how old?
14.
Having a baby in a backyard.
Yep, I did.
She is locked in, alone, watching Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman when she feels the first sharp pain.
You're in labor and there's nobody there.
I didn't know I was in labor, but yeah, I was still, locked at that time. Just scared. It was terrible pain. I didn't know what was going on. Hadn't seen anybody all day.
She will be in labor all by herself for hours. Finally, the Garridos return. They give her codeine. The labor continues for another 12 hours, and with a complication, the baby is still inside her. Philip Garrido uses his hand to unwrap the umbilical cord from the baby's neck.
He had seen that on one of the shows that that's what you do, because she wasn't coming out. So he did that, and she came out, and then I saw her. She was beautiful. I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. I had somebody that was mine. I wasn't alone. And I knew I could never let anything happen to her. I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I did.
And when Garrido takes the baby,
he held her in a chair and prayed that he would never hurt her.
Was it your terror?
Yeah. Every day.
No doctors to help, no experience, no nutrition. As a 14-year-old girl breastfeeds her baby and cares for her as best she can. And impossibly, 3 years later in that same backyard, she will once again give birth, survive, and so will her second little girl.
I have a second person to love and to love me. And maybe another little piece of my mom to hang on to. I wanted to see her more than anything. Every day, in the beginning, like I said, I would cry every day and be hard as when I would think about her and what she was doing, and then trying to convince myself she was better without me. Easier, you know, she had Shayna, but I wanted her.
She now has 2 children locked in a room with her. She will breastfeed a total of 6 years straight and watches TV to learn everything she can about being a good mother. And now there are 3 captives parole officers could save if they only searched the backyard on their dozens of visits. Jaycee Dugard writes in her book that Garrido often erupts with anger, inexplicable rants about her behavior, which she keeps trying to alter in order to subdue his moods. And he makes her listen to the voices he says he hears with a machine he has built using plastic cups and something called bionic ears.
What are bionic ears?
It's like a sound amplifier, and I would have to listen to the air conditioner, sit with the headphones for hours, tuning in, he called it.
And then, years into her ordeal, for the first time, she will be given a tiny measure of freedom. Garrido builds a fence walling off the entire backyard and places a little tent outside. And one day, she writes, she gets to walk outside for the first time in 6 years. I can feel it, she writes, the sun warm on my face. And experts who study survival say nearly all those who make it through long seasons in hell find some way to create meaning no matter the reality of their day. Amid the trash and squalor,
you planted little flowers.
Yeah, I like to garden.
This was your garden?
Yep.
Even little flowers in the tent. And she hoards the children's books they gave her. She has an idea. For her girls, she'll create a little school.
We had math, social studies, English, and history was the other one. And I would teach them the best I could. I only had a 5th grade education, so my math wasn't my strongest suit.
In a secret act of defiance, she saves little scraps of paper and begins writing a journal she manages to hide from him. Sometimes it still sounds like a child.
I would live in my own world, and I would have superpowers, like the power to heal people and animals.
Sometimes she wonders if out in the world there could be a soulmate for her.
The physical abuse was all I knew. But
right.
Things that I saw on television were so different. And, you know, I mean, I don't know.
Look at this. I would search the world for the top teachers if I could get out of here, and psychologists and doctors. And I would organize, and we would open a free clinic for homeless people to come and interact with animals.
Time on my hands to think about things I would do.
Her daily life is dependency, isolation, drowning in his manipulation and control. And the constant insistence for her and the girls there is only danger outside the fence, in the unknown. And then one day, Garrido tells her she has to help him make Nancy feel better. So he's decided that from now on, Nancy will be the girl's mom. Jaycee is just to be the sister. She has nothing of her own. She later writes in her journal,
I want to be free to come and go as I please, free to say I have a family, free.
Free to have my family.
And next, the great mystery. Why didn't she try to escape?
Did you think about taking those two girls and running?
Investigate. Tuesday on an all-new Red Rum.
Why is this door locked?
You're looking at a home movie the Garridos made of a parole officer going through their house. One of the 60 regular visits parole officers will make to check up on a sex offender. The voice you hear is Nancy Garrido taunting the officer.
What does a parole agent do for his parolee?
Ma'am, you can come in office and we'll discuss that.
In a few moments, Chris Cuomo will take you frame by frame through the video and show you the Garrido strategy as the parole officer fails to find Jaycee Dugard 30 feet away. On another occasion, Garrido actually lets her into the house. She even has a casual exchange with a parole officer, not daring to say who she was.
I actually talked to one of the agents, and the agent proceeded to give Philip his urine test and left. This made me feel like didn't really care.
A neighbor called 911 once and said she had seen girls in his yard. Nothing was done. And so more and more years go by, summers, fall, winter. Jaycee Dugard's little friends from the 5th grade are now entering college. She has been told to take a new name.
Who were you?
I was Alyssa. I liked the actor Alyssa Milano on Who's the Boss. I couldn't be Jaycee, so I picked another name.
And who were you inside when you would be out among people?
Hiding. Afraid I'm going to make a mistake and do something wrong.
And no one seemed to see you?
No, nobody noticed.
She said by then she'd gained weight and her blonde hair had turned brown.
Did you know that there was an artist's attempt to imagine what you looked like? What do you think?
I don't think it looks like me.
Which brings us to one of the great mysteries of human behavior. If she was out in the world, why didn't she run? What was the psychological stun gun that paralyzed her action, even when the doors were unlocked?
Classic. Classic. Manipulation, being responsible for everything from time to food to human companionship.
And you see it over and over again.
You do see it over and over again.
Her therapist, Dr. Rebecca Bailey, says what happened is not Stockholm Syndrome, but a kind of coping and adaptive helplessness. It comes with years of abuse, when emotional handcuffs become stronger than tangible.